Crisis Media Center, and our current topic is as follows: concept of penitentiary system reform, vision of religious communities, and penitentiary experts. We have Pastor Rustam Fatullayev, head of Pastors' Council at the State Criminal Executive Service of Ukraine. We have Archpriest Pavlo Osnovenko, head of the Department for Relations with Penitentiary Institutions, Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Kyiv Patriarch. Pastor Igor Lukianov, assistant to the senior bishop of Ukrainian Christian Evangelical Church on relations with the state, and other Sergiy Starenkyi, ex-head of the State Penitentiary Service of Ukraine, Natalia Kalashnyk PhD in pedagogic sciences, professor at Shevchenko National University, Maxim Paly, deputy head of the Institute of Criminal Examinal Service, and Archpriest Kostyantyn Panteley. Glory to Jesus Christ. I am pleased to congratulate it with the Jesus Christ Ascension today, jointly with religious activists and scholars, we got together to describe the concept of penitentiary system reform. The Cabinet of Ministers resolution dated from May 18th provides for liquidation of the state penitentiary system in Ukraine and puts this responsibility on the Ministry of Justice of Ukraine. All of us, we support the reform, and we strongly support the need to change the system. Our chaplains have a very long tradition of penitentiary service, and each chaplain acting in penitentiary system covers hundreds of kilometers during his service, covering all the places of detention of prisoners, and we are very much familiar with both the prisoners and penitentiary personnel. That's why we are so much surprised that we are isolated from this reform. Liquidation of the penitentiary system harmfully affected the penitentiary personnel. Currently, there is a huge need to bring the penitentiary reform to the focus of public debate. And with this, I would like to invite Sergiy Starenkyi, ex-head of the State Penitentiary Service of Ukraine, in 2010. Good afternoon. The penitentiary system reform had been the long-awaited reform for a long period of time. The majority of employees in this service know that there is a huge need in the reform. The employees cannot anymore work in those conditions in which they used to work by today, and also the prisoners could not continue to stay in that bad conditions where they are now. So the problem issue exists. But the legislative situation, which the situation now around this problem, I think is improperly understood by the legislators. The reform pays no attention to several fundamental things important for the for the implementation of the reform. When we reform militia to become the national police, and summarizing our experience, first we have to set the overall goal, then develop necessary legislative regulations, and then implement it. As of today, the CMU resolution number 343 conflicts with framework law regulating the work of enforcement service. Then the law of Ukraine about preliminary detention. This is an old law which requires serious changes in order to improve the situation in the pre-court detention facilities. Also, the procedure for execution of sentences should be changed. The criminal and procedural code, which sets the procedure for sentences implementation, should be improved in the part of penitentiary procedure. So my message is that we should improve the legislative framework in that laws and some other 40 laws which require amendments related to the penitentiary system reform. In order to do this, the government should involve experts, should involve civil society and clergy involved into penitentiary system. Because without spiritual growth, spiritual revival of the prisoners, we won't be able to rehabilitate these people. I'm pleased to invite to the microphone Brother Yuri, who is a chaplain and a lawyer. I'm Yuri Anishchuk. For more than 10 years, I've been working in the penitentiary colonies in Ukraine. On June 8th, 2015, President Poroshenko had signed the law on chaplains' activities, and in late June it came to force. So this is more than a year now that our activities are regulated by the state. Actually, this was the logical result of our work for almost 20 years. Our brothers, chaplains, started to attend prisons and penitentiary facilities 20 years ago, and during that 20 years the government got accustomed to us, studied our work, and allowed us to participate in the penitentiary work and to share the word of God among prisoners and former criminals. Unfortunately, the penitentiary reform got no attention from mass media. We were unable to see any published structure of the reform. And moreover, currently we see that all those people who used to be rather good employees for last at least 15 years, they are now blamed to be corrupt and condemned. During that period which I mentioned, for 20 years, we have developed a huge experience of pastors work with the prisoners, and we encourage the government to develop more this reform, to look at it, to decide where the place of the penitentiary system in Ukrainian society, to involve more the clergy. Glory to Jesus Christ. I congratulate you with the Ascension holiday. The penitentiary system is very important for society. We should not ruin it in course of reform, but vice versa, we should improve it for the benefit of the beneficiaries and for the employees. And we should have good human respect to those who remain in the who remain under investigation and nevertheless are in pre-court detention facilities. Now there is a decision to remove the pre-court detention facility to the outskirts of Kyiv and to build a commercial entertainment center and shopping mall instead. I ask you whether it is possible to do in the same place. So the Council of Pastors, the Council of Clergy suggests to create the National Historical Preserve, that is to make a museum there, because in Lukianivska prison, hundreds of people were destroyed, were killed, were tortured, and at the same time the October Palace also was such a place of tortures, and we should commemorate the memory of those people and should allow people to come and to recall those people. About Lukianivska prison, we may create a museum with the stories of all those people from Ukrainian history who witnessed all the break points in Ukrainian history, like Ulyanov family. Dzerzhinsky was there. Alexander Bogomolets was born in Lukianivska prison. Levko Lukyanenko, Vyacheslav Chernovil, Ukrainian activists, and Tymoshenko and other people also were imprisoned in that jail. So we should create a place of historical memory to show people what we survived during our history, in order for Ukraine to follow the right path of its development. Thank you for your attention.
Natalia Kalashnyk, you are given the floor. I greet everyone who are in this hall. Thank you very much for invitation. Firstly, I would like to say that I support all those proposals that were expressed by the participants. I want to stress that executive service of the system of punishment, this is the state in the state, that as of today it was reduced, but it is too large. At this service there are many facilities, and Ukraine cannot sustain this number, both in terms of budget and also these societies, they should be reconciled, and this reform was not discussed with society. People do not understand what is going on. So what to do with those people who are in the penitentiary facilities? These are our citizens. We should take care of them, and we should care of them really. And the image of Ukraine depends on this. And also this is the way to overcome social conflict between former prisoners and society. They should be helped in prison, and this is a just terrible system. Because people, they spend more than 3 years in prison or in preliminary detention facilities, we lose social contacts. Up to 40% of men, they are supported by wives, and they have social connections. 18% of women who has 3 years of imprisonment, they have relationship with people, and only 15% in the colonies for juniors, they have social connections, and 60% of young people, they are orphans or from families in which parents are deprived of their parental rights. So they promoted the holding that can be created and the result of the reform in the penitentiary institutions by uniting all these institutions in one system. But 80% of facilities and equipment, it is outdated and worn out from 1950s or 80s. This is the newest equipment. And we have terrible picture. They closed schools in detention facilities, and this is a violation of constitutional rights of citizens. These people who are in prison, they are citizens of our country, and these schools are closed, and this prevents the education that is a precondition for resocialization, and there are many other violations in social sphere. 75% of those who are in the preliminary detention facilities, they need help of pastors, of specialists, psychologists, social workers. And there are 9 proposals. We should create scientific laboratory that would review the issues of reforms, and to create a staff that would oversee these reforms. And the profession of those who work in the penitentiary system, it is not included in the register of professions. So we should see the conditions that people work. And in my argument, I would like to express the opinion please review these items, and I'm ready for open dialogue in order to help in the situation, taking into account the needs of open society. And open society, it brings opportunities for those people who are in these detention facilities. Thank you. So we have several minutes left. So, Mr. Pali, I'm glad to see you all at our briefing. I represent the scientific block of our briefing. The penitentiary idea as a reform of penitentiary system, and I would like to draw your attention that the separation of state from church cannot prevent cooperation between these entities. So only separate entities cooperate, because if they are not separated, they may create something, some new entity. So we should cooperate, and science should be actively involved in all the processes. 2/3 of population believe themselves being Christians, and many resolutions and provisions of legislation, they declare Christian values, and penitentiary system also includes this. So the science that rejected is not a true science, and we should not close our eyes on penitentiary system and on prisoners. So the second argument, there should be clear assessment and calculation before doing something. Otherwise, there won't be any good results. So you should provide reforms in proper way, and we should not just do reforms. We should first analyze the situation, otherwise there can be a catastrophe. The essence of reform in penitentiary system is first we should verify all the reforms according to the goals of the Article 50 of Criminal Code. So in what way it influences the faith of those who were imprisoned, and how the replacement of detention facilities outside the city will influence the situation. If changes do not influence or partly influence or can influence the process, so these measures then believed to be cosmetic and not really necessary. And if they help, so they are necessary. So there should be personnel trained, they should be highly professional, and all the institutions, law enforcement bodies, by joint effort, should help people in facilities, and they should be paid properly, and this payment should be high. And the interaction with the religious and civil society organization should be intensive and professional, comprehensive. That's why we should work on a scientific and technical basis for this work. Taking into account all above mentioned, and together with the religious organizations, we create a chair that of penitentiary ethics and scientists, and here we will have experts from different spheres, and we will work on recommendations. Also, it is for training and retraining of chaplains, And we propose to everyone who is a professional in this sphere and who has the ability to join us to help in this important matter. And Rustam Fatullayev, head of the chaplain service, I would like to join my colleague and thank you for this cooperation, for this because we believe in Ukraine, and I represent the chaplain service, and in all penitentiary institutions we have our pastors, and in each colony we have priests, and the state does not pay for it. We do it using our own resources, because we believe that we should love others as we love ourselves. And we understand that some people, what is the most important thing? Why did these people got there? Because they violated 10 commandments, they violated the basis of religious requirements. They say we should help them to correct. And we support probation idea. And at our association, we have 200 rehabilitation centers. And these are thousands and tens of thousands of people who were returned to society. These citizens who were together with their families. Also, we carried out some research activities, and we calculated, and we know about it, who got in the prison once, then he goes to prison next time. So this is a repeated action, and when one person being in a colony underwent rehabilitation and went through probation and colony where there are priests and rehabilitation centers, 90% do not return to the penitentiary facilities. So these are billions of hryvnias saved by the state, the money that our taxpayers, we shouldn't support these people in penitentiary facilities. So taking into account the experience, we propose to create a civil society center for public discussion and monitoring of penitentiary reform. And there we want to invite the representatives of the Ministry of Justice and the Committee of the Supreme Council, experts, scientists, representatives of civil society organizations, churches, and penitentiary service. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, dear colleagues. We don't have time for questions. Thank you very much for coming. Till the next time, goodbye. Thank you. Dear colleagues, the next press briefing in several minutes.